Hi guys, welcome back once again. I really hope you're doing fine whenever you are, and if it is for the first time I come across my video, don't forget to like this video, subscribe and share. Okay guys, into this clip is all about the GLP and PNP party. They had a clash in the parliament, and Mark Golding just put Juliette Holness and Andrew Holness into their place. Kindly watch this clip till the end, and then I'll be back with more comments.
We will approach reconstruction as a growth-inducing strategy. I know from this that the question will be asked, why are we celebrating more debt? We are not celebrating more debt. What we are celebrating is the opportunity to make a massive investment in our infrastructure, in our people, in the services that improve productivity. And it is that investment, Madam Speaker, that will expand our economy relative to our debt, and therefore, in short order, you can look forward to growing, increased revenue, and a relatively smaller debt to the size of your economy. We have never before had an opportunity to spend $6.7 billion relative to our GDP. We have never had that opportunity. US and our GDP is somewhere in the region of about 17 to 18 billion dollars, $19 billion, thereabout. The Minister of Finance reminded me, $20 billion. You are proud, as are we, proud of the fact. Yes, $20 billion. So you get an opportunity to, within 3 years, to deploy $6.7 billion relative to your $20 billion GDP. So you can see the opportunity to expand the economy. And that's what the strategy is. And I'm encouraging all Jamaicans, regardless of political persuasion, to embrace this opportunity, to shift from crisis mode, to move from disputes over the distribution of a care package here or some lumber there, and start to think, how are we going to play our part in the new possibilities provided here for all Jamaicans to benefit? So, the reconstruction effort being deployed, logistics, agriculture, and energy will create thousands of jobs, crowded private investment, sustainability. Because make no mistake, there will be those looking on at our currency and say, can the central bank defend? Do we have reserves? Well, with this, we will be in a superior fiscal position to give confidence and certainty to our business sector. We will turn this moment of crisis into an opportunity to transform. Madam Speaker, Jamaica has never lacked ambition. What we have lacked for decades is the financial wherewithal to match that ambition. Today, that has changed. For the first time in our history, our national development vision is backed by a robust, multi-year, multi-partner financing envelope. Madam Speaker, we now have a clear reconstruction strategy, an empowered institutional framework.
And this year, we got walloped by Melissa. It's really a shame that the international financial community is still approaching the mitigation of the effects of climate-induced disasters on countries like ours by financing packages that are largely based on additional debt. These debts that we are now going to be incurring to finance our attempts at recovery are like lending money to a business that suffered losses through some kind of crisis that is trying to dig itself out of a hole from. Taking on additional debt to do that is going to be a challenging road for any country. Therefore, I don't think it's appropriate to treat these announcements in a triumphant way. We are going to be incurring the costs of paying back this massive additional borrowing in years to come. We are in a country which has spent the last 15 years seeking to get ourselves out of a debt trap, where we've had to run massive primary surpluses every year consistently to reduce our debt to GDP ratio, with a target that's written into our law incidentally by a government from this side, which we were anticipating would have been met this year before Melissa struck us. And now we are facing a new era of massive incremental borrowing. If you look at 3.6 billion US of sovereign debt, that's over 25% of GDP of additional borrowing. That does, and the 662 billion already available, only less than half of that is in a form that's not debt. Most of that is debt as well. This $2.4 billion of private capital, we look forward to seeing whether that will be forthcoming and in what volumes, because you can't project that you're going to receive private investment as part of your recovery. I'm glad that the multilaterals are going to support the effort, but at the end of the day, investors have to be willing, and there have to be projects available to them that are bankable and investable. So we will see whether or not that happens. But the reality is that only 12 million US out of how much? $7 billion is grant funding. Only 12 million US out of over 6 billion of programmed US funding is grant funding. That is the world that we as Jamaicans, both you on that side and us on this side, have to navigate.
Councillor, members' time for speaking has expired. Councillor, the members' time for speaking has expired.
We didn't visit your Prime Minister's speech with the kind of response that you're giving mine.
Madam Speaker, as the time for the opposition leader has expired, has expired, we ask that you give him sufficient time to complete his presentation.
House, the question is that the leader of opposition be allowed an additional 5 minutes to complete his presentation. No, members, I am going to ask that no one asks for sufficient time to complete, because those words can mean a 2-hour, 3-hour presentation, like the member from St. Andrew South. Yeah, Angela, you know it's you, who spoke for hours. What is your point of order? What's your point of order? You're correct.
That violence is standing
Member, you're correct. But it is not in keeping with the approach of Parliament to speak until conclusion, whenever that is. And we have learned our lesson, as the member so nicely stood up and reminded us. So she knows who we are speaking of. So 5 minutes, House. Those in favor? Those against, the ayes have it. House Leader?
Yeah, I suppose I should be grateful, though it's a very parsimonious allocation of time to respond to such an important speech on such an important occasion. It's symptomatic of what is wrong with this Parliament, that the leader of the opposition is given 5 minutes more to finish a presentation. Anyway, that is the world in which we are being required to live. Madam Speaker, the institution which has been announced to oversee the recovery process, which does not yet exist. It is just an announcement thus far. This National, I think, Resilience and Recovery or Resilience Authority, NARA, is going to, we are told, be responsible for the relief resources being spent in a judicious way, in a way that's efficient, in a way that is accountable and transparent, and in a way that accords with a sensible policy of recovery. After all, the PIOJ has indicated that this financial quarter that we're in now, the economy is going to contract by some 11, I think, to 13% of GDP relative to the same quarter last year. That is a massive contraction. And it's going to further exacerbate the debt to GDP ratio because, of course, the debt to GDP ratio has two components. There's debt and there's GDP. So what we're seeing here is that debt is going to be growing dramatically and GDP is in the process of a free fall as a result of this terrible calamity that has hit us. So while I admire and indeed share optimism about the future, because Jamaica is such a resilient and special country, and we will get through this, I think we should approach an announcement like this with some sobriety. This event has caused us to retrace our steps substantially from the economic path we were on, and which the nation incurred substantial sacrifices to get to where we were. I'm not blaming the government for Melissa. That would be absurd. I'm not blaming the government for seeking resources to fund the recovery. It's going to be necessary to get those resources. I am just making the point that this is not something to celebrate. This is not something to gloat about. This represents a substantial setback for Jamaica, and it represents if it's not administered properly, it could permanently weaken our future prospects and damage the country's future. Which is all the more reason why the composition of this recovery authority is important. I wrote to the Prime Minister on the day after the hurricane to suggest the establishment of a task force with broad-based representation, leaders from the private sector and business community, leaders from the churches, leaders from the NGOs, and representatives from the government and the opposition. The concept of NARA is consistent with that. However, I've heard nothing from the Prime Minister as to the role of the opposition in NARA. We heard it will be broad-based, but there is no inclusivity in the dialogue around how it is to be constituted. And I can hear from the barbs that are flowing from the other side that the likelihood is that we will not be included in it. That is what I'm hearing from the other side in their responses to me, their sotto voce remarks. All I can say is, Prime Minister, the opposition represents some 400,000 voters who voted for us, 28 constituencies, and our presence in the recovery and our participation in the recovery, you'll be well advised to seek in a genuine...
House Leader, the member's time for speaking has expired.
Thank you. As the member's time for speaking has expired, I ask that you put to the House that he be allowed an additional 2 minutes to complete his presentation.
Brother, always a big theme. Interesting talk, you know?
Complete your presentation, Opposition Leader. Complete your presentation, Opposition Leader.
Another generous allocation of time. Thank you very much.
An opposition leader,
Yes.
Prime Minister got 10 minutes extra on 12 minutes for statement by Minister.
Right. I won't be
And,
nearly as long.
and you got
I'm
half
wrapping
of that
up.
time.
I'm wrapping up.
Yeah.
It's not in my nature to be long-winded. So, Prime Minister, the point I was making is, I think you would be well advised to seek, in an authentic way, the inclusion of the opposition in the governance arrangements over which these funds will be administered on this recovery, because Jamaica is facing an unprecedented disaster, the scale of which is indeed awesome and frightening to those who have to encounter it on a daily basis in several parishes across the land. So, Prime Minister, I wait to hear your thoughts on this. I have asked you about it for a month now. You haven't indicated to me your views, but you know, I'm putting to you today again what I consider to be the optimal approach to dealing with this particular matter. Time is short and I've been asked to finish within 2 minutes, so I will wrap up now. More and none. We will be hearing about the fiscal rules, and we'll be hearing about the suspension of the fiscal rules, no doubt. And I'm looking forward to the discussion around that, where I'll have an opportunity to say some more on these matters. Thank you, Madam.
So, thank you, Madam Speaker. You made mention of the human dignity component with your transition to digital cards or an alternative means to food distribution. In your presentation, I note that the purpose of loans, albeit that you are celebrating, and we ought to celebrate restoring the country, the aspect as to whether or not there was any consideration of persons who simply won't be able to access your electronic system to access basic necessities for the food and anything else that comes with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, in terms of an allocation, is there a specific sum that goes to the persons who are the primary victims and should be the ultimate beneficiary of any loan given? That is to ensure that the lives of the people are restored in a position better or at a minimum to the position they were before the disaster. And ask lastly that any consideration should consider the Constitution and the guidance on human rights when that is done. Thank you.
The member.
Right. Thank you very much. Prime Minister, in speaking about the next phase, and in particular moving from relief to recovery, I had a question in terms of, I think you had mentioned something about cash transfers earlier, though not specifically in here, but it ties in. So the question I wanted to ask is whether or not in the distribution of cash, allocation of cash transfers, whether gender-sensitive targeting will be used, especially given the fact that we know that targeting households that are led female heads, that really brings more fairness. And I was wondering whether or not that was contemplated in what you were planning to do. The other question that I have was really around also integrating emergency cash relief into existing welfare programs. We haven't heard much spoken about that, but I believe that that is important, although issues of connectivity and network would hamper how successful that can be. But as we are moving to restore, I am asking, where are we with that, and hoping that we will do that. Prime Minister, you speak in the reconstruction effort being deployed across infrastructure, housing, digitalization, logistics, agriculture, and energy, that thousands of jobs will be created. Again, Prime Minister, the question I'm asking, I'm looking at how Ministry of Labour and Social Security and some of those who have done the assessment. I'm looking at the cry on the ground about the partisan nature of how it has been done, how some communities have been totally left out, and I'm wondering what will be done differently to ensure that those thousands of jobs that are created for Jamaicans and not on a partisan basis.
Hi guys, welcome back once again. I really hope you watched the full clip and all credits goes just to the creator of the video. Okay guys, in today's clip, Mark Golden had a lot of questions towards Andrew Holness and his wife, because usually in Jamaica, monies allocated for whatever project have always deflected in a different direction. We all know Jamaica really got money for those people who are being affected for hurricane, but there is no any money that were given out. A lot of people really came out in with a lot of question, and they really asked this government, and this is the reason why a lot of people have really came out and said that this system is so corrupt, and they're really wondering, is Jamaican government a business? Because we've all seen the Speaker of the Parliament is the wife to the PM of Jamaica, Juliette, Holness, and people are saying that if the Speaker, she's the wife to Andrew Holness, this means that Andrew Holness can do anything he wants, and he just knows that his wife will be there to defend him. And this is the reason why a lot of people have really came out and said that we are tired of this government, we are tired of all this that's really happening in Jamaica, because they feel like Jamaican government is kind of business. And this is the reason why they are saying that Jamaican people need to work as a team. They need to work as a favor, so that at least to choose the right leader, to choose the good leader who is not puppet, who is not greedy. Because a lot of people are really asking themselves, whenever Jamaican government is being given money or is being given any money to help people, it usually just disappear in air, and they really know where this money goes. And this is the reason why a lot of people, they are coming out and say that this is kinda party shop government, while the country is in a disaster with no progress. Yeah, they see that the PM is just putting all this money into their pocket and into his family, and whereas the local people of Jamaica, they are continuing to struggle, they are continuing to suffer, they are continuing to go through a lot, because we've all seen how a lot of Jamaican people, they are really crying out for help of this, how there's no job opportunities in Jamaica, leading to some youth going into maybe joining gangs, killing people. And we have all seen Jamaican crime rate, it's really increasing at a high rate. This means that there's no job opportunities in Jamaica, and it's the work of the government of Jamaica to make sure that all the youths in Jamaica, they are getting jobs. And this is the reason why we have all seen a lot of Jamaica, they are going abroad to seek for greener pastures, so that at least they can able to send some back money back to their families. And a lot of people really came out and they reacted to this, because they are saying that there's no way this government can lead us, because this kind of a business government. There's no way you can appoint your wife as a Speaker of the Parliament, because if you can find yourself in any problem, she will be there to defend you. If you can find yourself in any disaster or in any corruption cases, she will just be there to defend you, because this is a woman that you are eating with her on the same table, you are sleeping with her on the same bed. So meaning she will just get your back in any case. And this is the reason why these people are saying that this system is so much corrupt. And a lot of people really came out and they reacted to this, and they said that how can this corrupt government still keep lying, especially when we call all worldwide, especially when we called all worldwide clearly follow what's happening there. Yeah, a lot of people are really saying that this system is still corrupt because of the things they're doing to the local people. And a lot of people have really came out and they're really saying that we really need to change this new administration. We really need to take Andrew Holness home, because it's really high time we appoint another leader. And someone really came out and said that Miss Juliette should not be nowhere in the House of Parliament. She cannot talk. She speaks very aggressive. She has no feeling. She's very cold and rude. She doesn't like people. It's shown all over her face. No prime minister should be in the house. Yeah, a lot of people have really came out and said that of how Juliette Holness, she's so aggressive. She has no feeling. She's very cold and rude. She doesn't need to be in the Parliament of Jamaica. And we have all seen how many times Miss Juliette, she has come out and switched off the mic to those opposition leaders whenever they are making great points, whenever they are speaking the truth of what's really happening on the government of Jamaica. And it's really high time the Jamaican people to wake up, because they are the ones to decide who to rule them. They are the ones to decide, or they're the ones to elect a better leader, because corruption is not a new thing. It's not only happening in Jamaica, it's happening across all over, in Africa, in Caribbean, across all over the world. But it's really high time, or this is the chance for the local people to choose and to pray God to help them to select a better leader. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section, and if this was the first time you're coming across my video, don't forget to like this video, subscribe and share. Thank you so much for your time. May God bless you wherever you are. One love.